Today's video is one of the saddest videos that I've ever had to make. And just so you guys know, I am not writing a script for this video. This is just me talking into a mic, sharing my thoughts, because this is an emotional topic for me, and I thought communicating it genuinely with the emotion involved would be the best way to do this. It is officially NBA All-Star Weekend, and I don't care. I do not care. Do you know how crazy that is for me to say, as someone who has been a basketball superfan for his entire life? If you had told me 30 years ago I would no longer care about the NBA All-Star Game, I would have told you that you were crazy. When I was a little kid, NBA All-Star Weekend was like my own personal Christmas celebration. I made sure that nothing else was going on during that weekend. I wasn't playing any video games, I wasn't hanging out with any friends, and I sure as heck wasn't doing any work. I made sure that all of that time was opened up so that I can sit in front of my TV and enjoy everything from the weekend. And I mean everything. I would watch the hours of pregame leading up to the event. I'd watch those stupid celebrity games. I'd watch the rookie game, the skills challenge, the dunk contest, the three-point shootout, and of course the All-Star game. And then I'd get very sad when it was over and couldn't wait for next year to come around. These are some of the VHS tapes that my dad recorded of NBA All-Star games. And more so than any games that my dad ever recorded, I watched these All-Star games on repeat. This was some of the ways that I learned about these players' skills and tendencies that I now talk about frequently in my videos. The thing is, back then, you had this collection of all-star talent all coming together and putting on a good show for the audience. And I think most of us can agree that that hasn't been the case in recent years. Obviously, the three biggest events of All-Star Weekend are the three-point shootout, the dunk contest, and the actual All-Star game. So let's start with the three-point shootout. This is the one that's actually still decently entertaining for me. Unfortunately, it's a pretty common occurrence that the best three-point shooters in the NBA don't actually participate in the three-point shootout. Now, one of the major drawbacks is the fact that it's now difficult to compare modern players to players of generations past because of the ways the three-point shootout has changed. Now there's entire money ball racks, there's three-point shots attempted from further out, and there simply isn't an equal amount of shots taken, and now guys are having rounds much higher than that of generations past purely because of the inflation. Now if I want to know if a guy did better than past scores from Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, or Craig Hodges, I basically have to turn into a mathematician and adjust for all the different rule changes, all the extra shots, and the much greater distance for some of those shots. And even then, it's not really a fair comparison. So the one event that I can actually still draw some entertainment from, unfortunately, doesn't have the historical value that it once did. We can never see NBA players from the 1980s go against NBA players from the 2020s. They played in different eras. They have a different set of skills. There are things that you just can't compare. But up until recently, the NBA three-point shootout was one of those things that you could compare, as every player had the same amount of time, was taking the same amount of shots, and the scores were tracked the same way. But now that's no longer the case. Which means that one of the timeless comparisons that we could actually hold on to as NBA fans is now gone forever. Then there's the NBA Slam Dunk Contest. The first dunk contest I ever watched as a kid was the 1988 NBA Dunk Contest in Chicago. That one is simply one of the greatest dunk contests of all time, as it was a classic battle between Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan. What you need to understand is these guys were both MVP candidates, and were two out of the top 4 best players in the entire Eastern Conference. Players of this caliber haven't been participating and competing against one another in the dunk contest for a very, very long time at this point. So when we see some players who are technically not even NBA players come in and make some dunks that aren't nearly as impressive as some of the dunks I've seen on YouTube, you can kind of understand why it's a bit underwhelming. We want to see some of the best players in the NBA be the players who are competing in the dunk contest. If we're being honest, some of Michael Jordan's dunk contest dunks are not close to being the greatest dunks in dunk contest history. But the reason why they're so iconic, and the reason why that image has been burned into our memory for so many years, is because it was done by Michael Jordan. So until the NBA brings back some of the star players to actually compete, like say Giannis, Anthony Edwards, or LeBron James, then I will continue to not be interested, as I could easily find way better dunk compilations on YouTube. And then there's the actual All-Star Game, which is insanely gimmicky at this point. In case you didn't know, once again, the All-Star Game format is not East versus West, but instead, the 3 teams, and yes, you heard that correctly, 3 teams are decided by Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal. And based on how they drafted the players, I have some questions about whether or not this whole thing was orchestrated. So now we're just doing more gimmicks, which seems like it's the equivalent of giving a Flintstones vitamin to someone who has a broken femur. NBA All-Star Weekend is struggling, and last season's All-Star Game was widely recognized as one of the worst All-Star Games of all time. That's because absolutely no defense was played. It was either a layup drill or simply shoot around, and both teams combined for nearly 400 points. And this was after Adam Silver had been telling us for weeks that they would make defense an emphasis, that he had spoken with the referees and he had spoken with the players, and more effort was going to be put forth. And don't get me wrong, I don't want the NBA All-Star Game to have 1980s defense, but just a little bit of effort. At least look like you're trying to stand in a guy's path. I understand it's entertainment, I understand it's an exhibition, and I understand that the players want to put on a good show for the fans. But a layup drill or a shoot around is not that, and we've been saying that for years. After we got that disappointment, and after Adam Silver had egg on his face, did he then bring the hammer down and put an even greater emphasis on defense? No, he just got incredibly gimmicky with it to a level that we've never seen before. And if they didn't give a darn in the previous format, then what's supposed to make me think that they're gonna give a darn in this format? To me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because it was no longer about the fact that I was being disappointed and I wasn't being entertained. But now I was lied to, and that lie has been swept under the rug. Let me know in the comments section below how you guys are feeling about All-Star Weekend. Do you care? Do you kind of care? Or do you not care at all? Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.